We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Steven Spielberg marks the Shoah Foundation's 30th year, honoring Holocaust and genocide survivors, stories to ensure future generations never forget, including the LGBTQ members he saved on that list.
A Mississippi university may suggest what is happening nationally. Students increasingly skip condoms, citing medical advancements. However, changing views on safe sex are raising concerns among public health advocates about STI prevention.
Jacob Rostovsky, QueerWorks CEO, faces charges of grand theft and fraud over $1 million. He's accused of misusing public funds meant for LGBTQ community programs.
LGBTQ plus Trump supporters prioritize economy and security in unity rallies, overlooking his past anti-queer policies. Advocates criticize events as dismissive of community needs.
Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels. We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, and we now have more than 10 million views on the only daily live queer news show in the world. We are proud that we have more than 1,000 new subscribers in October, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. Over 500,000 of you have now watched the show in the last 60 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our community. It is Monday, October 28th, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in the LGBTQ news, you will see it and hear it. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community. Our mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's meet tonight's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Meet Von Biggs, a trailblazing advocate for health equity and HIV treatment. As community outreach coordinator at Holy Cross Health, he leads initiatives for the LGBTQ community and people living with HIV. His role as vice chair of the Ryan White Part A Planning Council and founding board member of the Trans Ed underscore his dedication to inclusivity and systemic change. Known for his powerful public speaking, Von tirelessly champions the rights of marginalized communities, making him a respected leader in health equity and social justice. Von, the Community Empowerment Committee of the Broward County HIV Health Services Planning Council is hosting a community health fair on November 2nd, 2024 at Dorothy Mangurian Comprehensive Women's Center. Tell us what's going on.
Well, it's a great thing. The Community Empowerment Committee, which is one of the small committees within the overall planning body that we have, we always do community outreach. And many, many years ago, this is way before my time of serving, they used to have what they called a Ryan White Health Fair, where the people who were enrolled in Ryan White could come to an area and find ways to navigate maybe some issues that they're having navigating services. So we're bringing that back to the community so that they can come out, talk to people openly, like navigating maybe housing, food, medical care, prescriptions, whatever they need, even health insurance. We're entering open enrollment season. So it's a perfect time to make sure that they have their insurance plans in place to help them. So it's going to be held, Holy Cross is having it at the center there, and it'll be a great event for everybody to come to. I know all the participating providers who are in the Ryan White system are going to be there to help people that come in and have questions about navigating their services.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I also should come in. I am a recipient
Yes.
of that as well.
Absolutely.
What time is it?
I think it's, I've got the flyer here. Let's make sure. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right time because they just updated on me. It's 11 to 2.
Okay, perfect.
So, yep.
Perfect. So get out there for your insurance questions, health questions, and see them on Saturday from 11
Yes.
to 2.
See you there.
Now let's welcome Mark Pettitt. Mark is a pioneering traveler and coordinated the very first gay pride parade ever on the continent of Antarctica. He is also a former Mr. Sawmill Leather Sir. He and his husband Luke run linksbyluke.com, the chainmail, harness, and pride accessory shop. Mark, the Oddities and Art Holiday Market starts on November 30th at the Peach Art Collective in West Palm Beach. You and Luke will be there with Links by Luke, and tell us what's going on.
It is a really cool event. We've done one event with them in the past up in Stewart. So this is a combination of Access Arts Florida and the people who put on the Palm Beach Tattoo and Art Expo.
Ooh.
So the vendors are all just like very quirky and interesting and weird in wonderful ways. So it's at the Peach Art Collective. It'll be from 11 to 6 on November 30th. And if anybody's interested in coming and joining us, go to www.accessartflorida.org and click on upcoming events. It will definitely be worth it if you can come out and be there.
And it's worth it to get some of his links because I wore it to the gala. Mark adorned me for the task force gala with his links by Luke.
You were dripping, darling. Dripping in steel and stone.
So fun. Everywhere I walked, people were like, oh my God, you look fabulous. It's like Links by Luke. Let's welcome Edward Otto Zielke. From a successful career in financial marketing to his current role as the Director of Marketing and Sponsorship for the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, Edward's journey is marked by accolades and achievements. The Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida is one of the world's largest and most important LGBTQ plus cultural arts organizations. Edward, the chic and unique ball, Crystal Opulence Unleashed, is set for November 2nd, 2024 at the Westin Resort Conference Center. The event will also honor Tom Nichols and Dad Chadberg with the Douglas Jackson Pugh Community Leadership Award. And tell us what's going on.
Yeah, we are just so fortunate to have Tom and Dan in our community, not just within the South Florida community, but in the LGBTQ plus music community. These two guys are just fantastic with their philanthropy. And they relocated here to South Florida after spending a few years. They've been with many different choruses in terms of the gala choruses. They were with Washington, D.C., and they wrote a song for their chorus as well. So when they came down to South Florida a few years ago, they joined on the board, and they wrote a song for us last year at the Pride concert, We've Come Through the Storm. So, their messages of inclusiveness and diversity are very important to our community. So it's thrilling to honor them. But I do want to mention, our sponsors that are going to be, helping this happen. Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, they have a wonderful silent auction item that's available that you can definitely take a look at. The Westin, that's also supporting us as well. Holy Cross Health, thanks Von Biggs for that as well. We also have Brand G Vacations, a wonderful vacation package with Brand G. Impact Encounters, also a wonderful vacation package and our silent auction item as well. Also, we have as our sponsors Tito's and Rosie's Bar and Grill. So it's going to be a fantastic time. We have almost about 400 people showing up for this, and there's still tickets left. So go to gmcsf.org and get your tickets there.
Get y'all tickets because I saw your post today, the preview of what's to come. It was so fabulous, and I know opulence. You know, y'all are.
It's going to be so over the top. It's, you know, the whole crystal theme is so wonderful. It recognizes our 15th anniversary, the crystal theme, the opulence, because, you know, it's so high end, because, you know, we've got Seminole Hard Rock and the Western really bringing in that whole decor and the whole atmosphere. And the unleash part, just like what the LGBTQ plus is all about, we just unleash our whole fabulousness into it. Right. So it's going to be a wonderful time. And of course, this is tonight's lead anchor, Jamaal L. Starks, aka Porcelain. Jamaal is the president of Impulse Group Miami, a spiritualist, wellness advocate, coach, and walks as a sex siren in the ballroom scene with the House of Gorgeous Gucci. He is a board member of the Legacy Builders Consulting Group and is a certified yoga instructor at the Miami Life Center in Wynwood. Jamaal, you are conducting Sensual Vinyasa at the Miami Center from November 1st to November 3rd. So tell us what's happening.
Of course. Come to my class.
Right.
Sensual Vinyasa Flow. It is my flow. I teach on Fridays at 7:45, Saturdays at 11:30, and I'm doing a special rooftop at the Love Life Cafe on Sunday at 10 a.m. I just did one last Sunday. It was beautiful. It's delicious. My Sensual Vinyasa is all about the breath work, all about connecting you back to your body, all about bringing in comfort and pleasure back to your life, back to your body. And then I end you off with a beautiful, beautiful sound bowl session. So please join me at the Miami Life Center. You can go to MiamiLifeCenter.com and just look for me, Jamaal Starks, as the teacher, and you will see all of my offerings there. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and America, across America, is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points for the queer news for Monday, October 28th, 2024. First this evening, let's queer up social justice. Spielberg talks the 30th anniversary of Schindler's List, including the gay people he saved. Legendary director Steven Spielberg recently reflected on the impact of his Oscar-winning film Schindler's List and the legacy it continues to shape as his Shoah Foundation marks its 30th anniversary. During the Holocaust, German businessman Oskar Schindler courageously saved more than 1,000 Jewish people, including some LGBTQ individuals, from Nazi persecution. In an interview with NBC's Jacob Soboroff on Today, Spielberg spoke about the creation of the foundation, which he established after learning from Holocaust survivors on set. He shared a profound encounter with one survivor where she claimed to have a much bigger story than the one that Spielberg was telling of her life. This moment, Spielberg said, inspired him to bear witness and capture survivors' stories, creating the Shoah Foundation to preserve and share their voices. The Shoah Foundation, now led by Executive Director Dr. Robert Williams, has gathered thousands of survivor testimonies, including the account of 93-year-old Selena, who was the youngest woman on Oskar Schindler's List. Selena praises Steven Spielberg as his second Schindler for giving her a voice. Expanding its mission, the foundation has documented testimonies from survivors of genocide in Rwanda, Cambodia, Armenia, and more. With fewer than 250,000 Holocaust survivors still living, the foundation is racing against time to capture as many testimonies as possible. The Holocaust placed Jews wearing stars and queer people wearing pink triangles in work camps. Eventually, millions were placed in concentration camps and exterminated. It was the foundation of a unique kinship in horror between Jewish and LGBTQ community. Spielberg calls on people worldwide to join hands in remembrance, declaring, quote, "There are certain things we must never forget," end quote. I love this story. I love how the movie is a movement. and how it goes beyond the Holocaust. There, when I was reading Rwanda, Armenia, Cambodia, and places and other places that have also lend a helping hand in rescuing genocide and survivors of genocide. This is very moving, especially for a movie that hits to our hearts and that is such a phenomenon, such a change in mindset and culture. And I wrote on here, you know, with what's going on now, I'm going to really bring it down to what's going on now. It's not, there's not a question anymore as to how fascism can rise. Right. It's not a question in my mind anymore how these things came to power back in those days. And the fact that this still lives on 30 years later really speaks volumes. And it speaks volumes that 30 years later, we're still, well, we can say 60, 70 years later, we're still dealing with the repercussions of certain mindsets and certain agendas.
I'm with you. I really like that we're bringing in different examples of just hate that has been brought to the extreme, to the point where it results in genocide. And I may be aging myself a little bit here, but I remember growing up and coming to the point of finding out that gay people were even involved in the Holocaust. Right. There was nothing about that in kind of primary, secondary education. That was something that really only came to light in about the late 1980s, early 1990s, when I was like, oh wait, that was us too. Right. And you realize how this kind of hate grows and spilleth over into the very next group of people that are out there. Because as a kid, I was like, I just don't understand how he got all those people on his side to be so hateful. Right. But the times that we're in now, I think, are a living illustration of how easy that is.
It's true, and it's so important to, you know, give these survivors a platform to tell their stories. You know, I remember growing up and listening to friends that were of the Jewish faith and you know, hearing about the tales that they went through of some, you know, of their relatives escaping. And my own grandmother, who was German, escaped from Germany in the late 1930s because her family had the mindset to say, this is wrong and we want you to have a better life. So she sent my grandmother, a 16-year-old girl, on the boat, not speaking any English, to come to America for a better life. Wow. And so, you know, that resonates with me even today. So telling those type of stories, you know, is so important, not even just for our community as well. You know, when we have had genocides with the AIDS crisis and stuff, it's so important for us to, you know, definitely speak up and talk about it. So it's a great tool.
I'm fascinated with the idea that Steven Spielberg, who did the movie, took it beyond the movie. With a foundation that continues to speak. And as we talk about this, I keep thinking about our history in the U.S. and how we're trying to, you know, people are trying to write history out of the books. And this is going to continue that legacy, you know, of remembrance. And I think those are going to be important stories, because once history's been erased, it's going to repeat itself. It really will. It's been proven time and time again. So, next, let's queer up health. Young LGBTQ say condoms are an afterthought and other surprising behaviors on sex. In Oxford, students at the University of Mississippi encounter an overflowing bowl of condoms at their gym's entrance. Yet few take the initiative to grab one. According to Megan Perry, president of the Public Health Student Association, quote, using a condom is just a big no, end quote. The growing disinterest in condom use among both straight and queer students reflects a broader trend, as medical advancements and shifting attitudes contribute to fewer young people opting for protection. Dr. Josephine Cheruby, medical director of the St. Louis HIV Prevention Training Center, explains that past condom ads instilled fear, whereas current discussions focus on personal preferences. Despite fewer teens engaging in sexual activity, those who do are less likely to use condoms, with young adults aged 15 to 24, who is now accounting for all of the new STI cases in 2022. Half of those, actually. Sex education also plays a critical role, with Mississippi's restriction on comprehensive curriculum leading to rising STI rates. Despite medical advancements like PrEP and doxycycline post-exposure prophylaxis, experts emphasize that condoms remain vital. Dr. Bradley Stoner from the CDC says, quote, "We know that condom use has declined among some groups, but they still have an important role to play in STI prevention. Condoms can be accessed without navigating the healthcare system, can be used on demand, are generally affordable, and most importantly, they are effective at preventing HIV and STIs when used consistently and correctly," end quote. Sexual health advocates suggest that the University of Mississippi is just an example of what happens among LGBTQ young people across America. As attitudes evolve and new prevention methods gain popularity, the discussion around safe sex and condom use continues to be a pressing concern for those public health advocates. One of the things I looked at, which down here in Broward, and I look at Broward County in our health department, and I was pulling a report recently, and Q3, I found what was interesting is they distributed 665,065 condoms in Broward County during Q3. And as we continue to hear our youth, we've had our own problems in Florida with our education system pulling, this discussion out of the schools. So it's a yin and yang, and when it comes to that, and as we've seen, education is so critical. We've got young people as parents that haven't learned that themselves, and it's got to be. We've got to learn to start pressing and more. As I go out and outreach, and it's like I was at a community event recently, and it was a bunch of, I would say, older generation of Black women that were there, and they were coming up, and we were giving out HIV kits. They're like, "Oh, we don't need that," and I'm like, "Do you have any grad kids?" "Oh yeah." "How old are they?" "Teenagers." "Oh, have you talked to them about sex?" And because they're not going to listen to their mom, but they'll listen to their grandma. And I think those are just important things we need to keep reminding people, because this tells a very true story of what we've continually seen.
I also think that there's been a very big shift in how the media, both mainstream and the adult media, represent condom use. When we think about kind of TV shows and movies and even porn, condoms were everywhere, and the discussion of safety that happened at the beginning, and even in comedy movies, with the wallet and or with the condom in the wallet, and how long that had been there. When there was, I think, a lot of fear around HIV, I would probably guess that our condom usage was at the highest. But I think that it's at a time for some of these media, both mainstream and adult, to really bring that in. Because so many teens and younger people find out what they know about sex from media or Pornhub or anything like that. And now you can't find one of those videos where they're actually being safe. I think 97% of videos is really presenting unsafe sex. So there was an abdication of responsibility that happened there that I hope that we can bring back.
I think the suppression of sex as a conversation has really done us harm. The conservative viewpoint that, we shouldn't talk about these things, we shouldn't talk about them to the youth, has now exacerbated a culture that promotes sex everywhere. Our music, hell, you go inside the grocery store and it's damn near sexual. But yet we suppress the real conversation that needs to be had. And then you get this. You get the mindsets of folks who honestly don't believe it can happen to them. They don't believe that, and they don't know the statistics. They don't know the data. Right now, we're having a syphilis crisis in America. Impulse Group, you go back again. If you go to Impulse Group, if you go to our Instagram, we have a campaign right now about syphilis effing America, because the percentages after COVID, because people were doing what they did in COVID.
Right.
The high, I guess, sexual activity has presented itself as syphilis is running rampant in America. And this is also perpetuated on the idea that PrEP has been
That it's magical?
that is
And that it protects against everything?
It's been replaced. Condoms have been replaced by the mindset that now PrEP is here,
Right.
and so I'm protected from HIV, but I'm not protected. But they don't understand that you're not protected from everything else,
Right.
and that you can get everything else simply by oral,
Right.
simply by semen or pre-cum getting on you. And even me saying these things, I know if some people would turn in their stomachs just to hear
Absolutely.
those things. But 90% of America is what? Doing the do.
And Jamaal, I think they're so trusting too, that just because somebody says that they're on it means that they're on it, and that somebody has the proper habits to be taking it at the right frequency, at the right dose to actually be protected. You can have a prescription for it and not be using it correctly, but they're just trusting each other out there.
You know, I had this conversation at the beach yesterday. I'm always talking about sex. I had this conversation at the beach yesterday, and one of my main points was we live in a sexually illiterate society, but everybody gets to use it.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody gets to use it. Like, if we put it on a scale of are you smarter than a fifth grader, usually with sex, you aren't. Like, usually that's where it comes down to. And then we get stories like this.
Right.
And then we also get conservative movements that try and suppress sexual education and promote this abstinence view, or just don't tell them about it. And they're going to be curious about their bodies. We are we are naturally curious about our own bodies and the pleasure that we can inflict on it. So.
And how many conversations do we have with youth that view it's just oral, it's not sex? And it's just like, you know, just talking to even adults, have you had an oral swab in your mouth or a swab of any other than just a urine test? They're like, no, why would I? And I'm like, because you
put things.
It's where you receive it.
I found it really interesting that the story, itself talks about from the University of Mississippi perspective, and the fact that there's an LGBTQ plus presence, and that they had the mindset to put a bowl of condoms, at this university. So, and it kind of speaks volumes in terms of, what we're doing with our own state here. Whereas, like, you have to not even say gay anymore in some of these universities, and they're taking away our freedom of speech. So it's just very fascinating to see the from one state to another in the South, no less.
And what really grinds my gears is that, to your point, these youth, University of Mississippi, have found the need and filled in the need in the ways in which they can do so. But we have major suppression coming from usually conservative viewpoints. On the advocacy of health.
Right.
It's weird. It's weird.
It's hypocritical.
It's hypocritical of actually taking care of your body and taking care of yourself, of what consenting adults naturally do on a routine basis.
Next, let's queer up social justice. QueerWorks CEO faces 53 felony charges for alleged misuse of funds in Palm Springs. The CEO of QueerWorks, an LGBTQ support organization in Palm Springs, California, is facing serious legal troubles. Jacob Rostovsky, the group's founder and leader, has been indicted on 53 felony counts, including grand theft, misappropriation of public funds, insurance fraud, perjury, and money laundering. The Riverside County District Attorney's Office revealed the indictment, with Rostovsky pleading not guilty and posting a $944,000 bail. Rostovsky launched QueerWorks to support transgender and non-binary residents in the Palm Springs area through mental health services and other community initiatives. However, DA Mike Hestron's office alleges that funds meant to develop a universal basic income program for 180 participants were misappropriated, with over $840,000 directed to Rostovsky's personal account. Some of these funds reportedly used for Disney and luxury purchases were intended for housing aid and monthly stipends, primarily for trans residents. Additionally, Rostovsky is accused of filing a false insurance claim, impersonating a QueerWorks client to secure $90,000, and then laundering the money. The Palm Springs city government has voiced strong support for the DA's investigation, saying, quote, "We're deeply concerned by these charges, particularly the misuse of taxpayer dollars," end quote. They have since implemented stricter oversight measures, such as independent audits and mandatory reporting for grantees to prevent future misuse of funds. Meanwhile, California's Department of Public Health has awarded QueerWorks a $500,000 grant for gender-affirming care, but suspended funding this summer, stating that initial disbursements appear unaffected by the alleged misuse. Whew, you got to use the word allegedly a lot in this story, but there do seem to be a lot of traceable stuff going on. I would also, though, just want to focus a bit on how this all came to light, because I think it is a really good example for queer people out there that really all this came to light from an employee who came forward, somebody who's still unnamed out there in the press, but who was looking out for, I think, the true intention of that organization's mission being fulfilled. So I don't know who that was, but I think that was a very brave and honorable thing that they did to report the alleged misuse of funds.
I think it speaks to who do you have as your board, and it speaks where's your checks and balances. We have a lot of nonprofit organizations out there who are trying to start out and they're new, and they need to have a strong team to help them to make sure that if, I can understand if there's a mistake made, but this allegedly seems to be a lot larger and over a longer period of time. But in the same respect, it's like if there was that strong, it's like, are they being held accountable too? Because I would think there has to be a checks and balance in some way.
That's a good question, rather than those coming from outside like they have to now.
Right.
That's a very good question. What really itches my funny bone here is the alleged stealing or laundering from housing. We talk about trans housing, we talk about LGBTQ housing, we talk about housing for Americans, period, which is a crisis in America. Housing is a crisis, which lends itself to a mental health crisis that we have in America. And to lay the framework and foundation that is the work that you are to do, and to not execute it, allegedly, it's heartbreaking because I know so many good work, groundwork, grassroots folks who are trying to do this work with just a quarter or 10% of what the funding was here, and they have to fight tooth and nail and straw to do the work that they need to do. And so this is completely heartbreaking for me if it happened. This is alleged.
The word is alleged.
Alleged.
Next, let's queer up politics. MAGA Trump gay event says LGBTQ plus community already has full equality. As the election season heats up, conservative LGBTQ plus supporters of Donald Trump are hosting Trump unity events across battleground states, aiming to rally support despite his record on queer issues. Recently, the Log Cabin Republicans organized the Unity Tour rally in Charlotte, North Carolina. Gay conservative attendees there downplayed LGBTQ rights and rather focused on economic and border security issues. Gage West, a 23-year-old rally attendee, expressed a common sentiment saying, quote, "I'm not voting because of marriage equality or LGBTQ plus rights. I'm voting because I want more money in my wallet," end quote. Some, like 57-year-old Don Weber, says the LGBTQ community has already achieved full equality. However, queer Trump supporters are somehow forgetting Trump's record on queer rights, including banning transgender military service members, opposing the Equality Act, and appointing judges with anti-equality histories. Critics like former Pennsylvania lawmaker Brian Sims have condemned the unity events for including far-right figures who promote anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric. Sims told The Advocate, quote, "The irony is sickening. They claim to be against grooming, yet they stand side by side with a man who's the real threat," end quote. Queer advocacy groups like the Human Rights Campaign view these events as an attempt to gain votes without addressing the community's needs. Brandon Wolf, HRC's National Press Secretary, told NBC News, quote, "It's unfortunate that you have groups like the Log Cabin Republicans who are willing to sell out the community in exchange to be able to cozy up to someone like Donald Trump," end quote. And who wants to cozy up to Donald Trump? I certainly don't. So, you know, in terms of Log Cabin Republicans, it's always been something that I don't think I will ever quite understand in my lifetime, nor do I care to really quite understand. They have, I believe, you know, just one purpose, and they just want to just make more money. And I guess I'm someone that does want to make more money themselves, but, you know, I don't want to hinder my own community or anybody else's community to get that. So that's all I have to say about it.
I live up in Palm Beach County, I think, as you guys know, where there is just a massive amount of support for Trump and a good amount of gay support for Trump as well. So I think that the income piece is certainly a part of it. When you're at a certain high enough income level that there are certain policies that become way more important to you and that define your future differently than they do for other folks. But a lot of others are people who I think are just really dying to belong to something and that at some point feel rejected by the LGBTQ plus community in some way or another, and that this is just a place that they can go where they don't really feel a part of our community. So I think as moronic as some of these stances are, understanding where they're coming from and having conversations with these folks is one of the most important things that we can do.
Absolutely.
That's a very interesting perception. I wrote down on here that they actually don't think of themselves as part of our community right before we got here. And so therefore they're seeking belonging. And even the rhetoric, you know, I just want more money in my pocket. For me, those types of rhetorics show the downside of capitalism. Capitalism within itself isn't wrong. It's just a system of transaction and how we exchange money. But when you begin to believe that money is some sort of protection, or it protects you from certain things, it means that you don't have as much experience with money as you seem to lead on. I just want more money in my pocket. Well, money won't save you when your partner is dying in a hospital and you can't do anything about it because they won't let you make any sort of decisions unless the close of kin is there. You know, money won't save you in so many different circumstances. There's so many people with money, you know, sitting in situations where you can have all the money in the world, but your rights are not protected. You as a human being is not protected. I think that people value money as this humanizing factor to, you know, I can get whatever I want with money.
It is.
And
it's like a privilege, you know, like where you feel like, you know, the more wealth that you acquire, the more that you're allowed to do, and the more that you're allowed to say, and the more that you're allowed to govern, or whatever that is. And, you know, it just speaks so, you hit it right on the head with that, you know? It's
very sad.
Yeah.
You know, it's a sad state to be in when you see those types of experiences and you know you really don't know what you're talking about. And you're shooting yourself in the foot for an idea that you think is going to, you know, make you whole, protect you, or whatever. But actually, your rhetoric is actually harmful to you, in essence.
And you could hear some of that coming through in one of the quotes with like, hey, as gays, we have all of our rights. And what I think that they're also really not so subtly showing you is that we are the L or we are the G or whatever, we are the one letter of our community. So if I have marriage rights, then I'm taken care of, but they don't see themselves as part of LGBT. That separation there is I think a way of almost kind of elevating one's status and just not kind of taking care of the whole community. I think your original comment of not really feeling like they're a part of the community is right on. But it's not that they don't feel a part of the gay community, it's that they don't feel a part of the LGBTQ community.
And I wrote down another word, intersectionality. Intersectionality is a thing that people really don't understand. That you may be gay, but your gay experience is different than my gay experience. It's different than your gay experience. It's different than that gay experience. My background, my lived experience says a lot about how I've had to navigate this life. Being a Black queer man is totally different than being a cis white gay man, or a cis white woman, lesbian, or a cis white trans person, or either or. You can interchange all of these identities, all of the words, and intersectionality really shows the level of, when you understand intersectionality, you understand human beings as humans. When you set yourself above in your privilege, you then begin to dehumanize all other experiences that you've never experienced. I don't give a damn about, because we have all our rights, like you said. I can get married. Who cares if you can get a house? Who cares about your housing? Who cares about your medicine? Who cares about the suicide rates of trans and non-binary people? Who cares about that?
Because you're not exposed to it, because it's not in your environment. I mean, it resonates so well with me. I grew up in a Republican family, and, a lot of the values that were bestowed upon me, I did feel was wrong. And so I had to leave, and I had to create my own life around that. And so, I understand, where people's mindsets can get warped. And it when you grow up in privilege, then that's the mindset you have sometimes, unless you're willing to go outside your own backyard.
And you know what, to your point, Edward, this is the moment where I believe, as we move forward in history or in the future, because this is the future as well, as we continue to move forward, people will start to have very humanizing experiences that will make them really have a backlash, have a whiplash. Who could have predicted that Hurricane Helene was going to go all the way up into the mountains of Appalachian and completely destroy North Carolina? When you get put into certain humanizing, grounding positions that make you rethink, because of your life experiences, rethink your rhetoric, you begin to understand other human beings and how we're not in this by ourselves. We're collective. We got to live and share on this damn planet. We got to eat. We all are trying to do the same thing. But I do believe within my heart that as we continue to move, even past this election, despite what comes, people are going to have very humanizing experiences as to their decisions and their choices, as to what will happen for this next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah. And let's hope we all evolve for the better.
Oh.
Yes. All right. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out Television Studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Visit Lauderdale brings Fantasticks to South Florida. Visit Lauderdale invites theater enthusiasts to experience Fantasticks, a love story reimagined at Island City Stage. This reimagined version of Off-Broadway's longest-running musical, crafted by original lyricist Tom Jones, features two young, compelling gay leads, adding a fresh perspective to this classic tale of love and discovery. Fantasticks, a love story reimagined, is the centerpiece of Island City Stage's 13th South Florida season and will run through November 17th. Audiences can expect an enchanting performance filled with humor, romance, and a touch of reimagined magic, making it a must-see theatrical event in South Florida this fall. More information can be found at visitlauderdale.com.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up religion. History as two married gay pastors ascend to bishops for this major church equality group. In a significant update for Sunshine Cathedral, husbands Reverend Dr. Jarrell Watkins and Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin have been promoted to bishops for the Global Justice Institute. Now addressed as Bishop Jarrell Watkins, Senior Minister, and Bishop Robert Griffin, Executive Minister, the two have faithfully led the cathedral's congregation for years, each contributing distinct strengths to the church's mission. Bishop Jarrell's focus has been on casting the church's vision, preaching, and leading worship, while Bishop Robert oversees its administration. Historically, bishops have been seen as overseers and evangelists within Christian ministry, mentoring leaders, guiding spiritual communities, and spreading their influence beyond single congregations. Reflecting this tradition, both bishops are active in social media, affiliated with multiple boards, and involved with the Global Justice Institute, whose presiding bishop, Pat Baumgardner, recently designated them auxiliary bishops. Bishop Jarrell also leads the Divine Science Federation and is an accomplished writer, broadening their shared influence within the New Thought movement. You know, it's wonderful to see this, and I had to do a little bit of research because when you think of these two and the impact that they have made at Sunshine Cathedral, when I pulled some of this stuff, it was interesting. Bishop Jarrell Watkins, he's been a minister since 2007. And under his leadership, Sunshine Cathedral has grown into the world's largest progressive queer church. His vision and dedication have significantly expanded the church's reach and influence. Their community engagement, both bishops have been instrumental in fostering strong sense of community, which we see all the time. Their educational programs, the Samaritan Institute, the church's religions education program, those programs provide valuable resources and support to the community. Culture contributions, the church's Walt Lawrence and Stephen Lewis Center for Worship and the Arts, which includes a state-of-the-art organ, serves as the premier performance space. This has made Sunshine Cathedral a cultural hub in the area, which we have seen. Financial stability. In 2016, under the guidance of the church, successfully retired its property mortgage. And advocacy and inclusivity. Both bishops are active advocates in the LGBTQ rights and the community. I mean, those are just amazing things that's going to lead to the legacy moving forward. And what a great opportunity for these two.
I got to add one to that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a really long list.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that this newscast would be here today if it wasn't for that kind of leadership rising to the top and staying there at Sunshine Cathedral. So thank you to Sunshine and for both of you gentlemen for what you've done with Queer News Tonight, happening out television, happening out studios.
And don't forget the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, because we do our rehearsing there every night on Tuesdays as well as Saturdays. So Darrell and Robert, we thank you so much.
I think this is a lovely story because this shows that there's nothing wrong with religion.
Mm-mm.
No.
There's wrong with the people who are set in charge. So it always starts from the top all the way down. You can see the people of God through the works that they do and the light that they shine. And this shines so beautifully. And we did a story where this has even reached across continents to Africa.
Oh, okay.
I read that story, and this is just beautiful. And I love to be sitting here. I think that's what also we were called here, to sit here and do this newscast.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up drag culture. This pit crew hunk is going to compete as a queen on Drag Race. Looks like the pit to crew competing queen pipeline is alive and well. Ming Yao, known to fans of Canada's Drag Race as a former member of the pit crew, is making a powerful return to the stage, this time as a contestant named Minnie Wang. The Australian native, now based in Toronto, joins the upcoming 5th season of the show, hosted by RuPaul's Drag Race alum Brooklyn Heights. In her Meet the Queens interview, Wang quipped, "I am bringing Gaysian excellence and representing every person that's having a midlife crisis as well." At 39, Wang is now the second former pit crew member to compete, following in the footsteps of Drag Race España's Miguel Yeyo. Season 5 of Canada's Drag Race premieres November 21st on WOW Presents Plus. I am so happy I got this story. I'm a Ru girl. I love my RuPaul's Drag Race. My shirt today, Beast, is in honor of Global All-Stars winner very recently, Miss Alyssa Edwards.
Yes.
But Luke and I, we go a little bit all out. The house has a drag race mode that we set through Siri that turns all the lights.
Serious?
Yes, it turns all the lights pink when we're going to watch Drag Race. We have a fantasy league where before the first episode, you have to rank the queens in order, and then you get points throughout the season depending on how close they were to your ranking.
Wow.
But this shift from pit crew to contestant is just delicious
This is
to
the
watch.
sexiest thing I've ever heard. Like, I love that.
Yes.
When you
And
can
the
flow
name.
from the masculine to the feminine and just, ooh. You know, my ex is Trinity K. Bonet.
Oh,
Yes.
well, I like you even more now.
I'm on one of the episodes on The Arm when he's talking to Jamaal Sims, who is a friend, and they're dancing, and he says, "Oh, you have my name on it." He's like, "No, that's my ex. I'm the Jamaal. I'm the ex." With the tattoo right here.
I'm also a big RuPaul Drag Race fan, so I love getting to see all of the new queens that are coming out and all the franchises and stuff. It's fantastic. But I would like to know exactly, why is it at 39 we're getting a midlife crisis? When did that all of a sudden change positions? So
Could he have gotten it sooner? What do you
39?
And I'm 39. I'm not having a midlife crisis at all.
I'm 61 and I'm not. So
Anyway, let's LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Jonathan Bailey has a photo of Wicked's Fiyero wearing nothing but boots. Jonathan Bailey is setting the stage for his role as Fiyero in the highly anticipated Wicked movie, sharing an amusing behind-the-scenes moment about his costume, or lack thereof. In a recent promo video, Bailey revealed that during his first fitting, there was a mishap with his wardrobe. He shared that during his first in-person meeting with the guy who made his Dancing Through Life boots, he reached on time to play Fiyero, but nothing else arrived, so he had only his Fiyero boots. He said, "And then there's an amazing photo that no one is ever going to see of me, and nothing but my boots, which are sort of felt for Fiyero somehow." End quote. I wish we could have seen that. But, you know, I'm so excited about this movie coming out. It's going to be fantastic. I saw the musical when it first came out 23 years ago, and, you know, and I'm just so happy to see it come to life. And it's only part 1 from what they're saying, right? So we have to wait a few years for part 2.
I hope it's going to be
Somebody
good.
out there needs to get into their AI, Google, whatever, and just create this image. He's not going to share it. He's just happy to lay this little thirst trap for us to get us to. Somebody make it and post it to Queer News.
Maybe it's a PR stunt to make all the gays go out and go watch the movie, even though we were already sold because it's Wicked.
Right.
But
Right.
you didn't have to tell us
Jonathan
more.
Bailey, don't hurt.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. Andy Cohen celebrates queer appeal of Real Housewives. Real Housewives executive producer and host Andy Cohen has shared why the reality series resonates so deeply with LGBTQ viewers. With 11 U.S. franchises and 21 international adaptations, Real Housewives is a global phenomenon known for its strong fan base, particularly within the queer community. In an interview with Pink News, Cohen said, quote, "It's funny. We love women. The show celebrates women. It's fashionable. It's camp and it's high drama. It's all the things that gay men love," end quote. Moreover, in recent seasons, Real Housewives has made strides in queer representation with stars Jenna Lyons, Raquel Chevrolet, as well as Julia from Real Housewives of Miami, who is married to Martina Navratilova. You can catch Real Housewives season streaming on Hayu, or Peacock, or Bravo. Don't they have an app? So I used to be really deep into the Real Housewives franchise because when the Real Housewives season Atlanta came out, it was the first time for me that I saw Black representation and Black women who were familiar to me. I think a lot of gay men take a lot of their feminine strength from the female presence that they grew up around. And so for me, there was a lot of representation. I saw my sister in certain people. I saw my auntie in certain people. I saw the women in certain people. So it was very and I think Atlanta is one of the biggest forward progressing franchises that he ever created, that like it blew up the Real Housewives franchise. I was watching Jersey for a little bit and New York, but nothing compared to Atlanta. So I do identify with like that love for the Real Housewives because, you know, I think all of us inside thought we were a little bit of a housewife ourselves.
Wow. Housewife fantasy. I do think somebody has seen more franchises than you.
Oh, you're looking at me.
Oh.
True. A fan, but a guilty pleasure at the same time because it's amazing because I've watched a lot of the international ones like Dubai, and it just as gay men, you know, queer individuals, we love fashion, and some of those like Dubai fashions and some of these outfits these women are just wearing in their house, and I'm like, they don't dress like that, really? But at the same time, it also teaches me how not to act in public. Because some of those episodes at restaurants where they're pulling the hair across the table of somebody and ripping off a wig, and it seems there's 2 seasons out there out there right now. Potomac and the one in California, I can't remember which one.
Orange County?
Yes. Both dealing with DUIs from them. And they don't seem to be handling it well.
Wow.
So it's just kind of like, oh, okay, but no, it's a guilty pleasure. Bring on the popcorn.
It's also very highly entertaining. Then that's it for today's LGBTQ plus community on the world's and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I am your anchor, Jamaal Starks, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Von Biggs, Mark Pettitt, and Edward Otto Zielke, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. We remind you that the president election is just 7 days away. Stand up for your equality, rights, and representation. Early voting has started across most of the country, so get your voting now to avoid long lines, even though what I'm hearing is the people are out to vote. And there are some lines. So let's make history and let's vote for a better future. Go vote. Good night.